This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
French President Nicolas Sarkozy said in the Malian capital Bamako that his country remains committed to fighting Al-Qaeda in the African coast region, and particularly in Mauritania and Algeria. Mauritania and Algeria have expressed resentment over the release of a French hostage in exchange for 4 Al-Qaeda prisoners. The release of the French hostage received the blessing of President Nicolas Sarkozy. This constitutes a blatant contradiction between Sarkozy's words and actions.
The French president has finally displayed some talent after securing the release of French hostage Pierre Kamat. However, Kamat's freedom did not come without a price, as the Malian president ordered the release of 4 Al-Qaeda prisoners. After the release of the French hostage, the French president and his foreign minister arrived in Mali. This proves that France was behind the prisoner swap. It seems that France mounted heavy pressure on the Malian president to free Al-Qaeda prisoners. The release of Al-Qaeda prisoners has ignited a diplomatic crisis between Mali on one side and Mauritania and Algeria on the other. Algeria has recalled its ambassador in Mali over the release of 4 Al-Qaeda prisoners, including 2 Algerians described by Algeria as terrorists. The spokesman for the Algerian government said that his country strongly condemns and denounces this unfriendly action by the Malian government. He added that the Malian government has violated the bilateral judicial treaty signed by the 2 countries. Parallel to the Algerian reaction, Mauritania has recalled its ambassador in Mali to consult with him over the release of a Moroccan detainee who is being described by Morocco as an Al-Qaeda activist who is wanted by the security authorities. Sarkozy's remarks in Mali were perceived by some as being a blatant contradiction between words and actions. Sarkozy, who said that his country will join the fight against Al-Qaeda, has approved the release of the 4 Al-Qaeda prisoners in exchange for a French hostage. Knowledgeable sources believe that Sarkozy's actions constitute a contradictory and double-standard policy. France says that it will continue to fight Al-Qaeda. By the same token, it is mounting pressure on countries and governments to negotiate with Al-Qaeda for the release of French hostages. Any deal reached with Al-Qaeda, whether through ransom or the release of prisoners, will likely help boost the network's capabilities.
Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi called for a jihad or holy war against Switzerland because he says it's a state that destroys the houses of God. During a speech in the city of Benghazi in observance of Prophet Muhammad's birthday, Gaddafi said that each Muslim must sever relations with Switzerland and boycott its products.
Any Muslim who buys Swiss products is an infidel. To all Muslims around the world, including you in the audience who came from all over the Muslim world, any Muslim in any part of the world who works with Switzerland is an apostate, and he is against Islam, the Prophet Muhammad, God, and the Quran. Switzerland is an infidel and apostate country that destroys the houses of God. Boycott Switzerland, its products, planes, ships, and its embassies. Boycott this infidel and apostate nation that destroys the houses of God.
American forces held a press conference in Baghdad reiterating their commitment to withdrawing from Iraq, as was stated in the security agreement between the 2 countries. More details with Tariq Maher.
After talks about American hesitation to withdraw from Iraq because of post-election violence fears, American officials announced that they are committed to the withdrawal. They added that they have no desire to extend the withdrawal deadline unless requested by the Iraqi government. So far, the U.S. continues to decrease the number of its forces in Iraq. The Americans have closed 155 bases since they signed the security agreement. That number represents half of the total number of bases that existed before. By the end of 2010, they will have only 15 bases in Baghdad and Al-Anbar.
So there is some flexibility
if the Iraqi government requests the American forces to change the terms of the withdrawal in case of a spike in violence after the elections.
As the elections approached, security measures were tightened as concerns, especially assassinations, increased.
There are two techniques to carry out an assassination. The first one is by using silent weapons, and the second is by using sticky explosive devices.
The Americans did not refrain from expressing their dissatisfaction with Iranian intervention in Iraq and stated they are keeping an eye on Iran.
Certainly, we know that Iran is intervening in the Iraqi elections.
During the elections, American soldiers will be kept behind 3 security checkpoints in Iraqi cities and will only provide logistics and technical support. According to American officials, Iraqi forces will be 100% responsible for securing the elections. Tariq Maher, Al-Arabiya, Baghdad.
Press TV has asked the former Iraqi Prime Minister and the current head of the reform movement, Ibrahim al-Jafari, whether he believes the decision by Iraq's Justice Commission to ban some candidates would affect the legitimacy of the polls.
The Commission has an obligation to make, and that obligation is basically to oversee all the candidates. Before entering the polls, the candidate must fulfill certain criteria required by the Commission. This is the Iraqi law. I do not think it's a big deal because this happens all over the world. There are laws that a candidate must fulfill upon entry.
Al-Jafari also talked about his vision for rebuilding the country. He said if his movement is elected, he would do whatever it takes to fight corruption. He said corruption is one of the main problems Iraq needs to rid itself of. In another interview, we asked the leader of the Islamic Supreme Council of Iraq, Sayyid Ammar al-Hakim, about allegations that Washington's ambassador to Baghdad is putting pressure on the Iraqi government on the upcoming elections.
Over the past weeks, we have seen how the Iraqis have responded to such allegations. We have seen how Baghdad has responded to these allegations as well, making it clear that Iraq will not give in to pressure. However, Washington claims that it is not tampering with our politics. The U.S. says it wants a peaceful Iraq. We hope Washington will stand by its word.
Al-Hakim has also talked about how the country is improving, saying Iraq is open to new political parties. He says the elections in Iraq will not be tampered with by any party or any candidate. He also emphasized that Iraq has come a long way, saying that the Iraqi public know who to choose and know that what they want in a government. Al-Hakim is the leader of the largest national alliance, which has brought various parties together in Iraq.
Bring you live pictures from Damascus. That's where President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad is in a press conference with his Syrian counterpart Bashar al-Assad. So let's go and listen right now.
Anas Azraq from Al-Manar TV. A question to the Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and to the Syrian President. Actually, congratulations for this religious occasion, the birth of the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him. The question to the Iranian President: you will participate with the Syrian President on celebrating this religious occasion in one of the mosques in Damascus. President Assad spoke about a message of unity concerning this issue. What is the real meaning of your participation? Because this celebration will be in a Sunni mosque in Damascus. You will pray behind a Sunni imam. So what's the real meaning of this?
Well, we think we are one single community. Many of these actually limitations have been imposed. None of these none of these limitations actually have come from pure Islam and from the message of the Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad was the messenger of unity among Muslims. Today, our enemies are united. It's natural that we should actually learn lessons from our Prophet more than ever before and remain united as ever. Actually, a mosque is a mosque, a Muslim is a Muslim, a brother is a brother to us, especially the Syrian nation and government. In fact, we are one single body as actually, well, we are one family, so to speak. Actually, our talks are being conducted in a friendly atmosphere, like we are in a family. And today, I'm very happy to be participating in the celebration today, and I'm very happy to be here among my brothers. My question is, yesterday, U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton addressing U.S. senators said that Syria actually should distance itself from Iran and not arm Hezbollah with arms. What do you make of her remarks?
For this reason, we met today to sign this agreement of dividing Syria and Iran. But because we understood, or we misunderstood, maybe for mistranslation, we signed an agreement of cancelling the travel restrictions. We don't know if these two are in agreement, but I find it very strange, actually, how they speak about stability in the Middle East, how they speak about peace and all these other nice principles, and at the same time they call for dividing or decoupling two countries. I'm not just speaking about Syria and Iran, regardless of the strategic relations between the two countries and the beliefs in the common principles, but let's assume that the principles between the two countries are different and the interests are different and the views on different issues are different. On the contrary, maybe in that situation we are more in need of promoting and further improving our ties if the aim is stability. But if you're speaking about independent decision-making and about the continued dialogue between people and promoting interest and about the lessons which we learned, we hope that others might not teach us lessons about our own region and our own history. We are the ones who decide in which direction we will go, and we decide where our interests are. We thank them for their advice, and that's the only thing I have to say on this issue.
U.S. diplomats are currently hammering out the language for new, tougher sanctions against Iran. And Secretary of State Hillary Clinton expressed the hope that the sanctions resolution will be ready for UN Security Council action within the next 30 to 60 days. Clinton also said Washington remains disappointed by Syrian support for terrorist groups in Iraq and Lebanon, and she called on Damascus to begin to move away from its relationship with Iran, which she described as deeply troubling to the region and the United States. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad rejected Clinton's call today as Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad arrived in Damascus for a two-day visit. Assad said he was surprised by the U.S. Secretary of State's comments, and he added that we do not want others to give us lessons on our region. For his part, Ahmadinejad said Arab nations will usher in a new Middle East without Zionist and colonialist. A large crowd of some 1,000 people made their way to Joseph's tomb last night in honor of the Fast of Esther that began this morning. Among the prominent participants who took part in the army-escorted event at the holy site in Nablus were Danny Danon of Likud, Shomron Regional Council head Gershon Masika and Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, son of the former chief rabbi Ovadia Yosef. It follows the visit earlier this week by a group of Israelis to an ancient synagogue in Jericho and comes after Prime Minister Netanyahu changed his mind and included the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron and Rachel's tomb near Bethlehem on the new National Heritage Site list. Visitors last night are hoping that Joseph's tomb will soon be added to that list. Back now to the story of ongoing clashes in Hebron. IBA's Eli Wagalanter spoke this afternoon with journalist Yoni Ben Menachem, an Arab affairs expert, and asked him if this week's protests were just an excuse by the Palestinians to riot.
Definitely it's in a campaign of an incitement against Israel because I think the Palestinians, the PA, and also the Hamas, they know very well that Israel has no intention to change the status quo at Me'arat HaMachpelah as far as the prayers of the Muslims, all the Jews are concerned. This is just simply an announcement which has no practical meaning on the ground. Therefore, they're just trying to use it as a pretext to encourage the violence against Israel, and this is not something new. Every time they found another reason. Sometimes it's Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, and now it's Hebron and Kever Rachel. So we're used to it. I don't think it will develop to something very big. I think that the Israeli army knows exactly how to deal with this violence in Hebron.
So you're saying this demonstration will probably die out in a day or two?
You know, we have to pay attention tomorrow to the prayers after Friday, to be on alert, because usually they take advantage of Friday, which is a holy day for them, to incite during the prayers in the mosques. So we have to pay attention, but I think after a few days it will calm down if the Israeli army will prevent it from spreading to other cities and towns in the West Bank. And this is possible, you know, just have to take the appropriate measures on time, and it's I don't think it will be a big problem for Israel to prevent this wave of incitement and disturbances on the ground.
How will this play out in the wider Arab world? Will they see this as another Israeli provocation?
The Arab world does not need these events as a provocation. The Arab world does not accept the Israeli position as far as Jerusalem is concerned, as far as Hebron is concerned, as far as the Bethlehem and Kever Rachel are concerned, because they are Muslims, and they consider these places as holy places for the Muslims. And not only for the Jews, they give priority to Islam, which is natural. But we as Jewish people, we cannot forget our heritage, because these places originally and still are Jewish sites and very holy to the Jewish people. These places are the cradle of our Judaism.
Sometimes prison does not just represent a form of punishment for the inmates. The institution can be transformed into a productive organization. This has become the reality of a prison in Russia's Tyumen Province. Many inmates enter the prison without any professional skills. Our correspondent Raid Teshki spent some time with the inmates of Tyumen prison and brought us the following report.
For half a century, the prison in the city of Tyumen was a factory that produced bombs. Today, it produces items made out of wood and metal. The prisoners use some of these products for leisurely activities and sports, in addition to using them as furniture. They also use them to unwind and prepare food in between the pre-scheduled meal times. The work that has become voluntary is a right of the prisoners who seem to finally care about religion.
I am the head of the Muslim spiritual administration in the prison. Many young people choose the right path and started caring about religion. For the first time in their lives, they thought about their destiny.
I have been here for a year. I do not like to talk about the reason why I am here. Islam has changed my life. I realized how I should live. I have become calmer and more reasonable.
A young inmate who graduated from a religious school in Asyarusta helps the young people who volunteer to study Islam. They also receive outside help from the Muslims' religious administration of Tyumen Province.
Our mission is to help people choose the right path. Many come here because they made a mistake, either as the result of drinking alcohol or committing a crime because they surrendered to their desires. They did not know the existence of God, nor did they fear God. We do not want to give up on people who made mistakes, but we would like to get them back on the right track to lead a normal life, because God accepts repentance.
It appears that they now fear God because of their knowledge. When they study Islam, they refrain from breaching the prison rules. The prison administration also affirms that they seem to have the potential to have their terms reduced. Help also comes from outside the prison. Inmates receive books and attend lectures. The administration provides many facilities as well, such as a space for praying and a mosque that will be built soon that the inmates have named the Mosque of Repentance.
Religion booms in our prison because we welcome the initiatives by the Muslims and the Christians. We provided them with equal facilities to worship. Reform is one of the tasks of prison, and we need education and religion. The results are positive, and the worshippers do not want to breach the prison rules. Even many Muslims have stopped smoking.
The prisoners are able to study in this school and receive high school diplomas or college degrees. Usually, prison is not an effective place of reform because it takes in lost and deluded people and returns them to society without religion. With the help of religion, normal people here are doing everything they can to get closer to the day when they can leave this prison. Raed Tashki, Russia Today, Tyumen Province.
U.S. and Pakistani intelligence nab the second most senior Afghan Taliban commander. Pakistani media barely covers the news of the arrest. Why all the secrecy? And will this lead to the capture of Osama bin Laden? Answers to these questions and more on Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
Not too long after some 15,000 U.S., British, and Afghan national forces launched the largest attack on Taliban forces since President Obama signed orders to send 30,000 additional U.S. troops to Afghanistan, news broke of the arrest of the second most senior Afghan Taliban commander since 2001, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar. According to officials, he was seized in Pakistan in a secret raid by U.S. and Pakistani intelligence forces several days ago. His capture reflects a markedly changed attitude by the Pakistani intelligence toward an insurgent force that the country had allowed to operate with relative impunity for the past 8 years. Stunned by the success of this operation, however, a Taliban spokesman denied reports of Mullah Baradar's capture, saying he was still in Afghanistan, actively organizing the group's military and political activities.
Mullah Baradar has not been arrested. He is in Afghanistan. I don't know who spread this rumor, but it's absolutely false.
Qari Muhammad Yusuf, a spokesman for the Taliban, said in a statement. Meanwhile, the Pakistani media's response to the arrest of Mullah Baradar has been surprisingly muted. The arrest made international headlines throughout the day this past Tuesday, but Pakistani newspapers and television channels barely covered the news, with some completely ignoring it. Analysts say that the blackout was because Pakistan's government and army have been wary of being perceived as an American lapdog. Any collaboration with the United States in its war on terror in Afghanistan has become increasingly unpopular in Pakistan since Asif Ali Zardari government took power in 2008.
It's important to stop the criminals. These crimes should be stopped by keeping an eye on where they take place in the US and Pakistan. The presence of those involved in terrorism does not benefit the country, regardless of whether they are from the Taliban or other groups.
The United States joined our country's leaders in the name of the war on terrorism, but no one from the Taliban was arrested. They will arrest anyone and say that he is the associate of Mullah Omar.
The US and Afghanistan have repeatedly pressed Pakistan to do more to combat Taliban and Al-Qaeda fighters operating in its territory. But Pakistan's spy agencies have long been accused of protecting top Afghan Taliban leaders, many of whom are believed to have fled to Pakistan during the US-led invasion, to use them as tools to counter Indian influence in Afghanistan when the Americans withdraw. Many analysts believe that the Pakistani government has realized that the Taliban is too much of a threat to them since an all-out war between the Pakistani army and the Taliban broke out in Swat Valley last year, leaving many civilians killed and hundreds of thousands displaced. The honeymoon is over, commented Iftikhar Muhammad, a freelance reporter and an expert on Pakistani affairs. According to him, the Pakistani intelligence apparatus and the army have been complacent in the past in curbing the terrorist activities of both the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. What could this mean for the hunt for Osama bin Laden, who is often said to be hiding along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border? The answer depends on the information provided to interrogators in the coming few days. Baradar was the main link between Mullah Omar and field commanders and knows of the whereabouts of the Taliban leadership, according to security experts. In 1998, the Taliban regime mulled turning bin Laden over to the Saudi government, but the man who Osama bin Laden once called Amir al-Mu'mineen, or Commander of the Faithful, interceded.
I think that the starting premise is you don't make peace with your friends. You have to be willing to engage with your enemies.
U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has recently said that while the United States backed the Taliban integration program, the offer did not include the group's top leadership. Earlier in late January, Jeff Murrell, the spokesman for U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates, suggested that the United States could not negotiate with Mullah Omar because he has the blood of thousands of Americans on his hands. Could the capture of Mullah Baradar create a domino effect and deliver the beginning of the end of bin Laden? Or is this going to be a Tora Bora redux, another wasted opportunity? I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mir. You can also follow my updates on Twitter.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.